Hello, and welcome from United Reformed Church in Somerville. We're happy to join you on this historical tour because, truth be told, there's been a Reformed church in Somerville for just about as long as there has been a Somerville. Our story began on March 8, 1699. That's the day that what became known as First Reformed Church gathered for the first time for worship under the leadership of Guillaume Bertolf, a rather enterprising figure. Bertolf not only founded but was in charge of all Reformed churches in New Jersey and a few in New York at the time. Not long after, a new dominie took the reins, Theodorus Jacobus Frelinghuysen, who was dispatched from the Netherlands to lead the Reformed Dutch churches in the Raritan Valley. Frelinghuysen was a fiery preacher and is widely acknowledged as one of the leaders of the first great awakening of Christianity in the United States. By this time, Old First Church, as it later came to be known, had been built in a building much like this one in what is now Findern. 30 years later, his son John became the pastor. John and his wife Dina were the first residents of the old Dutch parsonage, but sadly John died not long thereafter. A new minister then came into service, Jacob Rutzen Hardenberg, who married John's widow Dina and now occupied the parsonage with her. The old Dutch parsonage sits quite close to the Wallace House, which in the winter of 1779 became one of the places where General George Washington actually did sleep. While our first president wintered in Somerville, he and his colleagues drew up plans to overthrow the British when the weather turned clement. He also struck up a friendship with his neighbor, Reverend Hardenberg, so it should be no surprise that later that year the original church building was burned by Lieutenant Colonel Simcoe and the Queen's Rangers, who also burned down the county courthouse in Millstone. A few years later, a new church building was erected here in Somerville at the corner of East Main and Hamilton Streets. This building temporarily housed both the church and the county courts. Soon, however, the church moved to the site of the current Somerset County Courthouse and then later moved westward to what has become the site of the jury room for Somerset County. As both the church and the area prospered in the first half of the 1800s, a second Reformed church branched off from Old First in 1834. Second Reformed Church was something of an itinerant congregation as well, as its first building was built at the corner of South and Division, diagonal from the Somerville Post Office. And it wasn't long after that, 1848, when a third Reformed church was born in the area that we now know as Raritan. Like its predecessors, Third Reformed Church moved from one site to another, first gathering here at the corner of Somerset and Doughty, but later moving to Raritan proper, buying property from yet another pair of Frelinghuysen's. By the roaring 1890s, Second Reformed Church garnered sufficient resources to build the home of what is now United Reformed Church at 100 West Main Street. It was built in the Richardsonian Romanesque style of architecture, with its low granite columns, unmatched towers, and rough-hewn stones. And this is where the three churches, First and Second Reformed Church in 1974, and then Third Reformed Church joining in 2010, came together to form a single United Reformed Church. History buffs will appreciate the pulpit, which bears the crest of the House of Orange, once the symbol of the Reformed Church in America. The pulpit came to United from Old First Reformed Church and was dedicated to the memory of the first Frelinghuysen. The old communionware from Third Reformed Church has pride of place here as well, and is used from time to time to acknowledge the friendly relationship that has always existed among the three congregations. And yet, as much as we honor our history, we're happy to continue to be an active congregation, joyfully serving our local community. You may know of us as the host of the Central Jersey 12th Night Boar's Head Festival, or as the venue for Peter Mayer's Christmas tours. We host Somerville High School choral and band concerts, And we believe in helping people. Raritan Valley Habitat for Humanity was born here, and Middle Earth received a boost from the church in its early days. Our doors remain open to Alcoholics Anonymous, to Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, to the Samaritan Homeless Interim Project, also known as SHIP, to the administrative offices for Liquid Church in Somerset County. And we provide a home for the congregation of Iglesia de Dios Jesucristo Rey de Reyes. We support the work of a church planter, too, much like the old enterprising Reverend Bertolf, but this one, Reverend Simon Muntalal, works in the Rift Valley in Kenya. So once again, history rhymes as it intersects with the present. We've not been able to tell you even a tenth of all the stories that make up the history of United Reformed Church. Perhaps you could come by sometime and fill us in on some of the details. Stop on over, give us a call. We'd love to see you. Hope to see you then. Until then, God bless you.